Today is August the 1st, 2007. We're here at 4073 Sigwam Avenue, which is south of Lowell, sometimes called M21. And we're at the home of Marji Potter. Most of you remember this home and this sign here, having a sign on it called Potter's Pebble Palace. Well, we're going to learn a little bit more about that, when that was here, and Marge is going to tell us a number of things about that, about her life. And so when Marge has lived here some years, since about 1940, in the early 40s they moved here. And at that time, her and her husband John did farming here, and in this area out beyond the house here, they planted many apple trees and other fruit trees, and had a small fruit farm here, which they operated for many years. Marge has been known for her creative gardening, and she has a nice garden out in front here, actually just beyond that by the picket fence over there. I've been here when she had peonies of all varieties growing along that fence. Also, she had many varieties of hollyhocks out there. So this has been a showcase house for many years. Behind the house here is the barn and a little silo. It was a neat little barn at the time when they used this for their farming enterprise. And behind the barn was all apple trees as well. You can see that even today, there's corn growing here. The ground is very productive, and they did a nice job with their farming. We're going to go inside now, and we'll be talking to Marge, and she'll be telling us in stories about how it came about that this became Potter's Pebble Palace. We're here with Marji Potter, and to do a little interview. We're going to just have a little conversation this afternoon. Mm-hmm. And along with me today is Judy Silvis. And Judy is a representative from the Methodist Church, and has a quilt that we'll be talking about a little later, and Marge will be looking at. And we'll see what memories can come up from that, all right? But to get started here, Marge, you were born apparently about in 1921, is that right?
I think so.
That's what they told you?
Yeah, 6/17/21.
And where was that?
It was northwest of Greenville.
Northwest of Greenville?
Yeah,
right.
On a Skimmerhorn farm.
Mm-hmm.
Always on a farm. I haven't been off it yet.
Now, do you remember anything about your grandmas and grandpas? Or?
I did not know my father's folks, and I only remembered my grandmother, because she lived with us.
I see.
And I only remember her when I was probably about 3 years old.
You remember what her name was?
Elizabeth Joles. Joles.
What nationality is that? You know?
Scottish.
Scottish. Okay. So you know Scottish.
Yes. McIntyre.
Okay.
Some of her relatives were Putnams and McIntyres, and McIntyres and Putnams both are Scottish.
Mm-hmm. Now, how about your mother and father? What was your mother's name?
My mother was Mabel Joles.
Okay.
And my dad was Fred Gross.
Fred Gross. Okay.
Yeah.
And they also came from about the same area, did they? Or?
My dad came from Bowen River,
Okay.
North, and he was a lumberman. He worked in the woods in the lumber until he come down with a severe case of asthma. and he and my grandmother had to live on a houseboat on the river, on Bowen River, to offset his trouble with asthma. He
Sure.
had to be away from everything, weeds, everything.
Okay, so that was clear,
Yeah.
clear
And-
air out
Yeah,
there.
I,
Huh?
I do not know when they came down. He came down to Grand Rapids, but he worked at Hayes, Iona, which was built automobiles,
Okay.
and he got lead poisoning.
Oh my
And
God.
with asthma and lead poisoning, why, the doctor in Grand Rapids said, "You've got to do something different." So he went to work for Spears Lumber Company.
All right, I remember Spears Lumber.
And I forgot, Ivan, I could show you a footstool, a horseshoe footstool my dad made while he was in Spears.
Okay.
I have it in the closet, but
Okay.
I should have gotten
yeah,
it out
we
for you.
we can look at it later.
Yeah. And
Anyways, they were married, and then they started doing some farming too, right?
no, my dad still worked at Spears, and Mom worked at Wurzburg's, downtown Wurzburg store. And how they met, I have no idea. But they lived on Gilbert Street at Madison Square for maybe 4 years.
I see.
Then how we happened to, he got into farming, that I don't know either. But it was the Skimmerhorn Farm
Okay.
there in Virgins.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we were raised, and we did our farming.
And that was on the corner of Virgins and Parnell?
Yes.
Okay. And now I believe at this point, then the Van Lands buy that area, that acreage?
Mr. and Mrs.
Okay.
Van Land bought
So-
it.
Now, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had one brother and one sister.
What were their names?
Arthur was my brother, and Shirley was my sister. And she was 7 years younger than me.
I see.
But my brother was 2 years older than me.
So you were a young farm family at that time.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So, what are your earliest recollections of the farm?
When I was 6 years old,
Okay, what'd you do?
I had to learn to milk a cow.
All right. Dad said milk a cow, huh?
We had 2 men and a boy, and I had to learn to milk a cow. But we all, my brother and I both did. We had to learn to milk on
Sure.
this one cow.
Okay. And did you have a special cow to milk?
Yes, just the one. And she was a Red Dane.
Red Dane.
Red Dane, yeah.
All right.
And very gentle. As gentle as a kitten.
Yeah.
I could have milked her if she just stood out in the barnyard. She wouldn't have moved.
That's the ones that
Then when I was 8 years old, I had another cow. I had 2 cows to milk.
Okay. What was that? Did that have a name? Most of our cows had
That her
names.
name was Nancy, and the Red Dane's name was Maud.
Maud.
Maud,
Okay.
yeah. And then there was Polly, and oh, mercy, that's about.
Yeah, I know. They
Yeah.
we all had all our cows were named too, and
Yeah.
had some reason for it as a rule.
Jenny was one, and one we got from Earl Thomas. Her name was whatever.
Whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. Why Earl ever named her whatever, we don't know.
Couldn't take. Now, did your cows were all milk cows?
Yes.
Of course, dairy cows.
Yep.
And they were dry for about 3 months out of the year.
Mhm.
And did your dad do any special things for the cows before they had
None.
calves or feed
all-
or anything?
The feed was ground oats and corn,
Mm-hmm.
and that was all the cows was given until they were ready to throw a calf.
Uh-huh.
And then my dad put a cup of cow care
Cow care. Yeah.
in their grain. That's all they got was 1 cup.
Was that kind of a reddish color?
It was iron and potassium.
Yep.
And we never lost a calf.
There you go.
And at that time,
Some of those little remedies really work.
Yes,
I think
they
some of
did,
the
yeah.
hybrid cows and the hybrid things
Yeah.
get a little bit
tough to
Well, we
take care
we
of.
had no way of getting any veterinarian stuff to give the cows, and they were always on pasture. You know.
Yeah.
So-
Now, you had horses too, probably.
Yes.
You remember the horses' names?
Let's see. John, Molly, Kit, Flory, Bill, and oh golly, what was the other?
You usually had 5 then, huh?
No, we had 7.
7?
Yeah, there was Sam.
Wow.
Sam was a smaller horse,
Okay.
and Ted.
Yeah.
Bill,
Now, did you ever
Bill.
you ride horseback?
Yeah,
Was it
Molly. Molly we did was my dad's buggy horse.
Okay, 1 horse. You didn't ride the great the
Yeah,
interstate
yes.
too much, did
I
you?
was the only one could ride John.
Oh.
That's the big white one.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
my dad always said, "Don't ever to the hired man, don't ever get on his back." I was the only one that could ride him, and I only rode him from the field to the barn
Uh-huh.
with the harness on, so
Yeah,
he
yeah.
didn't do much
It was all
kicking.
bareback.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what kind of crops did you grow?
We grew 80 acres of potatoes. We had alfalfa, we had corn, and okay,
Maybe some wheat?
navy bean,
You
navy bean
didn't grow
farm.
wheat. You were navy
Yeah,
beans?
we grew wheat.
Did ya?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we had the regular crops, you know, and
And you got a friend that wants to get in the picture too here. Huh? Sure, she can get in there. Now, on the farm, you always had cats and dogs, didn't you?
oh yes, always, never was without a dog.
No.
And
Now, did you have a dog that was a cow dog, or?
yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had a collie.
Uh-huh.
His name was Laddie.
And would round up the cows
Yeah,
for you?
yeah, we could send him back to the woods and he'd bring them up all by himself.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, Margie had to go along too, because Margie was the one that was sent to get the cows, and of course Laddie came along. Laddie hurried the cows a little bit,
Okay.
and but yeah, he'd go get them all by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a big collie.
That was a trait that we don't see very often anymore with farm dogs.
No,
They don't
no,
have to
no.
do that anymore.
Uh-huh.
But we always had one also. Now, as you were growing up, that was maybe you were 6, 8, 10 years old there. About the time you, what did you do on this potato harvest? What was your job when you harvested potatoes? Or
My job was to drive the front team. My uncle's job was to drive the team that was hooked to the potato digger.
oh,
And I took a log chain and wrapped around the tongue, and I drove the head team.
I see.
And I was about 10 years old.
Hmm.
And it was John and Molly
That's the two
that I
that
drove.
you
And
drove.
my uncle drove Kit and Flory.
Okay.
And my dad said, one of the hired men said, "Well, why can't I do that?" And he said, "Because you're big, you can pick up potatoes, but she's too small."
Oh, you got lucky, huh?
And I got lucky. Yeah.
All right. Now, did you like working on the farm?
Yes, I did.
Mhm.
Yes, I did, because I didn't have to work in the house, because I got a chance to work outside.
Okay.
In my school days, every day I came home, I had dishes to wash
Oh,
and wipe to get ready for supper.
okay.
I got very tired of doing it, so I asked my dad a job to do one day. I didn't wash dishes. I got scolded, but I found an outside job to do, and I've worked ever since.
Oh,
Outside,
your dad gave you something to do outside so you
yes,
didn't have to do dishes.
I drove John and Molly on. Okay, my uncle did the cultipacking, and I drove the drags.
Okay.
I dragged behind him
And you
with
had to
my
walk.
team. Yes.
Yeah.
You walk
In the dust.
right on.
Yeah.
See, we had a 160-acre farm.
Okay.
80 acres of it was into potatoes,
All right.
and I was the lucky one to drag the potato field as long
And get it-
behind my uncle's cultipack. We cultipacked then. People don't know what a cultipack is up
That's
today.
right. No. No, that broke up the lumps
Yeah, it's
and it
solid wheels.
leveled it out.
Solid wheels.
Mhm.
It isn't a drag.
Mhm.
It isn't a cultivator. It's a cultipack.
Yeah.
And That's something that
That was
Farmers-
new. That was new after what they called the roller.
yes,
The roller
we had a
was
roller
smooth,
also.
Yep,
But my
then-
uncle didn't like it. He'd rather
No.
use the cultivator
Well, it did a better
and
job.
I had to
It broke
use the
things up
drag.
better.
after him.
Mhm.
Many's of acres of land.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you folks? Did you have a truck also?
Yes,
that you worked
we had
on
a
the farm?
1928 3/4 ton truck.
And what did you use that for?
Well, I had to learn to drive.
Oh.
I drove the truck
you
when
did.
they picked up bags of potatoes.
Okay.
And I got my first driver's license when I was 14 years old, downtown Grand Rapids.
Oh.
I answered all but one question,
Uh-huh.
and the policeman said, "Why didn't you answer that question?" I said, "I do not understand." He said, "If I read it, will you answer it?" He started reading it, and I already had answered it.
Then you knew.
And my mom said, "I don't know how you've done that." We never had any instructions of what to do to learn to get a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
I was only 14 years old.
Yeah, that was long before driver's training.
Oh
in
yeah,
schools.
they didn't
Yeah.
know what driver's training
Because you
was.
were born in 21, and if you were about 14, that would mean you'd been about 35, or been in about 35. So you would have been, like say
Yeah.
14, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, been
Yeah.
about 1935.
Yeah,
Mhm.
1935.
Hmm.
And
Okay, now you went to a country school.
yes, 8 years.
Tell me a little story about that. Anything you can remember? Or you remember any of your teachers?
Yes, my first teacher was Lester Bailey. My second teacher was Doris Roth. My third teacher was Catherine Miller. My fourth teacher was Essie Condon.
That's pretty good. I don't think I can remember all mine.
And 8
That
years.
was up to 8th grades, right?
Yes, and it was called Bennett School.
Okay.
And the first school was built on top of the gravel pit, and they wanted more gravel, so we had to move it down. And fathers all went together and bought the acre of land from Bennett, and they called it the Bennett School.
Oh, Mr. Bennett had a
Yes,
farm.
and it was it was fenced all the way around, and it had 2 gates in front.
Mm-hmm.
The one gate was closed most of the time, so if anybody come in, they could only use the one gate to go in. And they were big gates. But back in those days, the parents did most of the work.
Mm-hmm.
They took care of the school, they drilled the well, put the pump on it, and anything that needed to be done, the fathers done it.
Done the maintenance. then.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We didn't, they tinned the roof. They did all of that.
Sure.
They built the school and did all of that.
Now, what did you do for entertainment at school?
Well, we had box socials, we had cake walks, and every Christmas there was 3 or 4 plays that we participated in.
Took a part.
Valentine's Day, we kids give each other different Valentines, and on Easter we hid Easter baskets in the woods that was behind us.
Okay.
That,
May Day, you probably.
we had May Day,
Mhm.
and 3 of us put May Day baskets on Grace Blanding's door. That's where Ralph Roth lived.
Okay.
And she lived there, and Mrs. Franks, they lived down by the school,
Mm-hmm.
and of course each one had one for our mothers.
Yep. Those are older people
Yeah,
that live there.
and we were taken across the road from the school, a wooded area, and there was a creek that run down through there, back in there, and in fact that's in behind the Wittenbach place there on across from high school.
Okay, on
That
the Agri
creek,
Center.
that creek is
Yes.
went clear down to Cook's, part of Cook's
Yes.
wetlands was
Mhm.
part of that creek.
Right.
And it come clear up behind Grace Blanding's house, which where Ralph Roth lived,
Uh-huh.
and because it come from a lake that was a bottomless lake called. It was kind of like an artesian well. The lake was fed from the bottom,
Oh.
and we never was allowed to be on it until we got bigger. We skated on it, and we also harvested ice,
Ice, did you? For
Yes.
your ice house.
because we had an ice house in our barnyard.
Mm-hmm.
No one else had one, and all the neighbors had their ice in our ice house.
Yeah. And they all went together to help harvest it.
Yes, they did.
Put
And
it
my
in.
brother and I was the guilty ones that had to put the sawdust in between the
Okay.
layers of ice.
Okay.
And
Right.
and the sawdust was brought over from somewheres over here.
Okay.
I think there was a blow that had a sawmill,
Uh-huh.
and it was brought there and dumped in the barnyard, and we had. My brother and I was the guilty ones that had. Well, no one else.
Harvey and Lloyd Blouse, they had
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had sawmills.
I didn't at the time.
Years ago.
I know it now, but at the time I did not know
Yeah.
it. I was too young.
That's where it came from.
Yep.
They supplied a lot of sawdust for a lot of ice houses. Now, anyway, you went to school there for about 8 years, and then
Yeah.
where
was
did
a mile
you go to
from-
high school?
It was a mile from us, and it was on a gravel road until I moved away when I was 18. Then they finally tarvied the road.
Okay.
They didn't tarvy it when I was still alive. Yes, I went to high school for 4 years.
What kind of subjects did you take in those days?
Oh, let's see. Oh, geez, don't ask me something I can't remember.
I'll bet you.
Oh, I had English. And
Yeah.
of course, I had you had literature with it. I had biology. I had math.
Probably the
and,
sciences, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you, it's the normal things that kids took those days. They didn't have as many elective things to take. They had just
No.
the basic things
Yeah.
that you took
Well,
each year. And
the boys could take handicraft. The
uh-huh.
boys had that in the old gym,
Shop.
in the old building,
Mhm.
and where you had to go down steps to the gym.
Yeah. This was at Lowell High School.
Yeah,
right?
Lowell High
Yeah.
School. And it finally burned down.
Yes. I think it was in about 1944,
Something like that. Yeah, we looked out our north window, and John said, "Something's afire," and it was the high school burning.
Uh-oh. Now, did you you remember any of your favorite teachers there in high school?
Not really.
Not really.
They all made us work.
Oh,
Mr. Zweimer was our science teacher.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
see. People of today remember Orion Thaler, and
Sure.
And well, we had farm crops, and that was Bill Smith.
Yes.
Becky Smith was my English teacher,
Mhm.
and her husband was my biology teacher.
Yeah. Becky Smith was my English teacher also.
Yeah, oh,
That was
yeah,
back in
yeah.
1949.
Yeah,
So
oh, yeah.
She was there for a long time.
Yes, she sure was. Well, Bill had passed away, I believe, before you guys. But she
Yeah.
was single then.
Yeah. Now, did you? Of course, that was before girls had sports, right? Or did
Yeah,
you? Did
I
you?
I played basketball.
Oh, you did.
Oh, we won several. I don't remember getting a trophy. I think we did. We got a trophy, but I don't remember.
In the conference.
Yeah,
okay.
in the but there was only 3 schools that had girls basketball.
Oh, okay.
One was Rockford.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the other one that we played. Yeah, it seems like it was East Grand Rapids, but I won't say for sure.
So that was between 19.
That was let's see, 37 and 38.
All
No,
right.
36 and 37. I'm sorry.
All right.
When I was a senior, sports was for the boys.
Okay. What? Who's was your coach? Your girls' coach?
Mrs. Avery.
His name?
run the jewelry store.
Oh, okay. Well, and he was a math teacher when I went there.
Yeah, you tell me about it.
Yeah. It was tough, wasn't it? He knew it so well that it was hard to teach it. He was hard to teach. I had an awful
Yeah,
time,
because
too.
it was all old-fashioned.
Yeah, he knew it so well.
Yeah,
That
and he
it was
only
hard to
taught
teach.
us what he knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't give you a
So we had
chance.
about the same experiences.
Oh, yeah, you sure
He
did.
was a nice guy, but he
Yeah.
just, it was hard.
But he
to
had
learn
one
from
thing on his mind, and you couldn't change it if you cried your eyes out.
him. Anyways,
It's okay.
all right. Anything else about sports? Now, maybe I think
I played
during that time.
I played softball.
You played at home there, didn't you?
Yeah,
Sundays
but
or something?
I played down here in Layton or Lawton, whatever his name was our coach,
Okay.
and I was first baseman.
Were you?
I started pitching until my shoulder couldn't do it,
All right.
and it was all underhand.
Yes.
We weren't allowed to play overhand because girls' shoulders didn't permit you to throw the ball overhand. But we
Okay.
did play in Sandlot.
Not a sandlot ball.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Were those played out at
It played
Parnell?
in Ross pasture, kitty corner across from our farm.
Hmm.
It was a big pasture, and that's where we played ball on Sunday afternoons.
Okay. Now that was kind of an organized or not really
That
organized?
was a
or-
neighborhood, just the neighborhood.
Okay.
Wittenbach boys and Ross, my brother, Rich Hausman, one of the Wittenbach, I think it was Everett, that got a couple of from Lowell to come out and play with us. We needed a couple of others for the bases.
Uh-huh. So
No, they wanted to play outfield, but they didn't want to play. Anybody want to play base? I
Oh.
played first base,
Uh-huh.
and
Now, were you playing softball or were you playing
we
baseball?
were playing softball.
Softball.
Only,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I know that was baseball because
There were baseball.
Hank Greenberg and Rudy
Yeah.
York used to play
Oh, yeah.
back then for the Detroit Tigers,
Sure.
who are the Tigers of today.
Yeah.
And my dad, we had a white mama cat that had 2 blue kittens. I mean blue,
Yeah?
that
Yeah.
color, blue, not the gray blue, blue.
Real
And
blue.
my dad was laid up in bed for about 3 weeks, and she had those kittens in my mother's closet on one of her sewing baskets.
Oh.
And Mom didn't dare move her, but my dad had those kittens on his bed, and he named one Hank and the other one Rudy, because he could listen to the Tigers play ball.
Well, he was sick.
And we raised those until they were 21 years of age. My mother brought them over here when she moved. When they sold the farm and moved here with us, she brought them over here. And I was the guilty one that had to take them to the pond to be put to sleep.
And at 21. And you
At
were still
21
going.
years of age.
Wow,
those
that
2
is old
cats.
for a cat.
Well, we had to have them put to sleep
Yeah.
because they.
Yeah, it got so old. Yeah.
Well,
Well, that was kind of neat to hear about those things. I think there were some other social things that, as far as church is concerned, tell me a little bit about church. How did you, I believe you were baptized in what, 1932?
I was 11 years old.
And where was that?
Right here, the
at the
Lowell
Methodist
Methodist Church.
Church?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it was Reverend Merrill.
Reverend Merrill
Yeah.
was a minister then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, did you folks have a car, or did you walk to church?
All we had was that 38 Chevy truck.
Oh, okay.
And Mother and I went to Virginia's church because it was only a mile from us and we could walk back and forth. There were times when Melville McPherson took his runabout, I don't know remember the name of it, and brought us home.
Okay.
Then come back and got Nellie and took her to her home.
I see.
And,
Okay, and then about when did you start going to the Rural Methodist Church again? Then, after you were married, or
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, see, Reverend Ratcliffe married John and I right in our
Okay.
farmhouse.
all right. This is a picture of you and John, but not your
But
marriage,
not
your wedding picture, but
yeah.
one of the pictures where you were
That's a
married.
church picture. Yeah. That one up there is too.
Okay, yeah.
And
So,
these are some,
now you and John got married in what year?
1940.
Tell me a little bit about how you met John.
I met John on the retail market.
Okay.
Cottage Grove retail market. He and his brother, his father had a greenhouse, had 2 greenhouses, and they raised lettuce, tomatoes, and eggplant, and radishes.
Okay.
And the boys brought that market, and they were kitty corner from us.
And you were
And we had
taking
potatoes.
potatoes. You were,
Yeah, we went to
Right.
Fulton Market, Cottage Grove Market, and the Leonard Street Market.
All right.
We spent, and then lots of times at 3 o'clock in the morning, Dad and I would go to wholesale market and get rid of a whole load of potatoes, and then come back and get our load and go down on the market. We delivered potatoes to a lot of people
Wow.
that are gone now. A lot
Yeah,
of them
sure.
around Grand Rapids.
Huh.
And they'd come and buy them, and then we'd deliver them after we were through at the market.
I see.
And I drove the truck from our farm to the Grand Rapids city limits, and my dad could take over because my dad's eyesight didn't permit him to do all the driving.
Oh.
And then my mother had to learn to drive, and when I was in high school, my mom had to
Go with
drive
Huh?
that distance for him, and we
Right.
went every day except Sunday to market.
So we'll talk about church a little bit here, and
Well, John, we formed what we call the 3 M's,
all right.
and do you want to
Sure.
know who?
Sure.
Well,
Sure.
the Barneses, the Jessups, the Thaylors, the Potters, the Lehmans.
Were
Okay.
plaques involved with that?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Howard and Ida,
Mm-hmm.
and Trina's when she was here. That was Ida's sister.
Was her name Devner?
Yes.
Yeah, Venus Devner.
Trina's
Yeah.
Devner. And I was just trying to think who all else.
Well, something that can help us probably jogs our memories a little bit is Mrs. Silvas has brought this quilt here from the church, and it has a lot of names on it. Maybe that will jog some of our memory a little bit too. Maybe you'll remember some of these folks.
There's Mrs. Kaiser.
Mrs. Kaiser.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
see any
there
of
was
those other
quite a-
ones?
Helen Avery is in here.
All right.
And Irene. Emma Green.
You knew those folks, huh?
Yes, I knew
Right.
those folks.
Were they from our Methodist church,
Yeah,
or were they friends of the church? Probably from the church.
Avery's came to church, and so did Emma. She was a single lady.
Okay. Here's
Yeah.
a Russell Smith.
Yes, and that Russell Smith is Mrs. Bannon's son.
Mrs. Bannon.
Mrs. Bannon.
Okay. Now, Mr. Bannon, he was
was
a barber, wasn't
Yes,
he?
yes.
Okay.
And he went to Catholic church, but she came to Methodist church, and this is her son by her first husband.
Oh, all right. All right.
Oh yeah,
And I
yes,
see
yes, and he played he played a trumpet, I do believe,
oh, yeah.
in the big band. Well, the men folks had a band
In
here.
Lowell.
Yes, and he was one of them.
Okay. There's an S.B. Avery, too, here.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I don't know that. There's Mrs. Young
Hmm?
and Nelson. No, that's something different. N-E-E something. There's Mrs. Bannon
And
right
then
here.
Ellen right there.
Yeah,
Ella Bannon.
Ella
Yep.
Bannon. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's her son.
That's her son. All right.
And where was
Let's take another
Nixon's?
look in here.
There's a Nixon in here, our minister.
Let's take a look at this center one here. Once there's A.M. Andrews. Andrews, Mr. and Mrs. Andrews, 1925. This quilt was done.
I don't know. You see, a lot of this. Here's Nixon's right here, right there. Reverend
Oh
and
yeah,
Mrs.
Reverend and
Nixon.
Mrs. Nixon.
Yeah.
Here's a Carrie Weeks
Carrie Weeks played the organ
at the church.
at the church,
Oh,
at the Methodist church.
okay.
Yeah.
when you went there. Huh?
And here's Watson's. They had a drugstore.
Okay, right there by the where the showboat is now,
And-
right by the
and
main street.
Mrs. Nash over here. Yeah, some of these are the Methodist ladies, but I think there was different.
Murphy Taylor.
Yeah, Murdy Taylor.
Who is she?
She was a telephone operator.
Okay. We got some pictures down at the museum of telephone operators, and we'll have to see whether she's one of those. Yeah,
Oh, now wait a minute, Taylor. Wait a minute, no.
it could be.
Yeah. Well, I think so.
Let's see who else we got here. There's Miss Carol Coulter.
Mm-mm,
You know
not
Caroline Coulter?
Yeah, not familiar.
That's just
Gramer.
Gramer?
Yeah, yeah, Mrs. Gramer.
Cheryl's. Can't really make that one out. Can you, Judy?
Malcolm.
Malcolm.
That's a possibility.
Mrs.
They could-
Lyle Dennick.
Yeah, Denix. Oh, yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Grace Green. She was a Dennick.
Okay.
Who-
And we got some Devering.
Here's Mrs. Green right now. Gladys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gladys. That's his Thorpe. This is
Yeah.
Gladys Thorpe. Here. Stinchcombs. Do you know? Did you know any
Ye-
Stinchcombs?
yes. Earl
Anna?
Here's Earl Crofts.
Croft.
Yeah.
How about Glenn Barnes? Was he related to Evelyn Barnes?
No. Yeah, he was an older man that he only came to Sunday school because Frank Coons was the Sunday school teacher.
Oh, like Frank Coons, huh? Okay.
Yeah, and they had the Sunday school class right down behind the organ that was there by the east window. The organ went straight up and down, and the pipes were up here. I don't know where else
Okay,
pipes
down
were.
on the right hand side of the pulpit.
Be on the east side
uh-huh.
where Bill always has a piano. That
Okay.
window,
And
from that window up to the ceiling was the pipe organ.
I see. Before
And-
they
and-
changed
You couldn't get behind it, only going up onto the pulpit to
it. I see.
get behind it.
Now here's P.C. Freeman. Is there any Freemans that you know?
No.
Okay.
Peckham.
Remember? Here's a D. Layer,
Ethel Yeiter. Oh, yeah, I know.
Ethel Yeiter.
Ethel Yeiter. Oh, yes. Tilly White. Oh, my mercy. Yes.
What do you know about Tilly? Any stories?
Tilly White. Now, let me think a minute. She and Gladys Doyle, Mrs. Hannah Reynolds was the Sunday school teacher for all what we call older people.
Oh, okay.
Nowadays, you don't call them older.
Yeah.
You're the same
Mature.
age they are, you know.
Yeah.
But back then, Tilly had a nasty habit like Nellie McPherson couldn't keep her mouth shut. And whatever was in her head came out her mouth.
Okay.
and we'd go home and laugh and say, well, Tilly had been giving her 50 cents because she had 50 cents worth of talk today. But
Uh-huh.
Rittingers?
Yes, Rittinger, Howard Rittinger.
John.
Oh,
This is John.
yeah, this is John, but Howard was an insurance man in Louisville.
Yeah, and he was also Justice of the Peace.
Yeah, and he lived just west of the Congregational Church in
That's
that
correct.
first house.
Yep. Because I went there and done
Oh,
work
I'm
for
getting
him.
smart.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, I can remember some of these now too. Yeah, you're jogging my memory.
Yeah, and I was just trying to think. There's
Mildred Taylor. Do you know?
yes. Oh yeah. I remember her very well. She did book work there at the church.
Okay, kind of a secretary at the church then.
Yeah, it's
More or
sort of
less.
kind of like.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we'll get into some of
Do you
these.
know Sinclair's, a Mert Sinclair? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah,
Mr. and Mrs.
yeah,
Mert
they went to
Sinclair?
Congregational Church.
Okay.
And here's Van Dusen.
Mm.
She came to Hannah Reynolds' Sunday school class. Mabel Scott, you went.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Yeah.
she did hair work. Her mother run the little tiny candy store right down on Flat River. Well, it's open now. It's all
Yes,
Flat
yeah.
River now.
Mhm.
But there was a restaurant right next door to her,
Okay.
and there was a grocery store on the other side of her,
Mhm.
just east of her. That's
And
Mabel's
she
mother.
had a little candy store.
Little
and that
tiny-
was Mabel's mother now.
Yes.
Okay.
And that candy store wasn't hardly as big as our bathroom.
Yeah. I've heard about
You
it, but I
you
didn't
walked
know.
in, you backed in because if you turned around you'd bang your head. But boy, she could make the candy. Morris Avery, yeah,
Mrs.
I've heard
Stahl,
that.
Leah Stahl.
I've heard of those names. There's Mrs. Morris right here, yeah. Okay. A lot of the
Newcomb.
yes, there was a Newcomb that used to come there. Yes.
Some of these are so tiny I can't read them.
Yeah, it's hard to read. Morris, here's another Morris over here. Yeah. Is that a shear?
Yep.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay.
That's
were,
Morris.
were they
that-
kind of related?
They were related.
All right.
Yeah,
And
these,
Coons. Is that Frank Coons?
oh, Frank and Ethel Coons, or yeah, Edith Coons. You better believe it.
And
Mr.
that
and
would have
Mrs.
been-
F. Coons. Yeah.
That been Dave's mother and dad?
And Dave's mother and dad. Yeah.
Now,
And-
did Dave have any brothers or sisters?
No,
He
Dave
had
was a single.
a single son.
But Frank Coons, big tall man, he taught Sunday school.
Here's a Jessup.
Yeah. Hmm.
F.E. Jessup.
Yeah, that is Orville's
Maybe his father.
mother and father.
Yeah.
Orville, yeah. Yeah.
He had because he had a photography shop.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have his some of his
Mhm.
equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and also in the museum, and we have his calling cards. So.
Yeah.
Beckett.
Well, they Beckett's were kids in the country school when I was in the country school. Here's another Taylor, Marji Taylor. Oh, I think we've been
Yeah,
through her,
yeah.
haven't we?
I
Yeah.
think what we got is on this other end here a little bit, Chet. Maybe we can
Should we turn this
see
right
what
around?
these.
Florence Bailey.
Lawrence
She
Bailey.
run the chicken place just north of us that Mom worked at for many years while I had to learn to drive.
Oh,
'Cause
you
Mom
mean the
worked-
raised chickens, or you
No,
mean they-
she had a chicken dinner place, and she
Oh.
they had weddings and they had anniversaries and they had, especially Polish weddings.
Oh.
You know,
It's where they
up
have
on the hill.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And then these other people took over and they had sleigh rides and horse, all them kind of things. Yeah. Tilly White. Oh, we went through her. We've been through her, I think, haven't we? Mr. and Mrs. Weaver. Mrs.
Nick, how
Weaver.
are you getting this? Okay.
Mrs.
Nick Blau is doing our video here and filming this. So anytime you think of anything or hear a name here, Nick, you just chime right in. All right?
Mr. and Mrs. Weaver, but she was the only one that came to church. I don't remember seeing her there very much.
What was
Or
the
him.
people's name that have the wedding place on Virgins now? Goggins? Isn't
The one they just sold?
Did they
Yes.
just sell Goggins? Was that
Yeah.
the name
Pro-
of
the
it?
kitty corner.
Yeah.
Right up on the hill from the Methodist
Yeah.
Church.
Yes.
It's on Bailey.
Corner.
Yeah.
On Bailey Drive.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was wondering if that Bailey, that's the same place probably that
Yes,
that was.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
that's the people that owned it
Yeah,
before
that-
Goggins did.
Oh, yeah. Florence Bailey, right there.
All right.
Next to Guile Sinclair, Tilly White, and
Hammer.
no, that, and Mr. or Mrs. White.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Mrs. White, he was a dentist up by where Doc Shepard had his office up above the meat market, Gary's Meat Market.
All right.
And this is her,
Oh, okay.
Mrs. White, huh?
Mrs. White.
Chafee?
Andrew, yeah, but I think they went to Congregational Church. I don't remember.
Don Miller?
Yeah.
Mrs. Don Miller?
No. Borgesons? Oh yeah,
You know the Borgesons?
you know where they live.
All right. Is that?
They went to Congregational Church too.
Okay.
Oh yes.
And she had the antique shop.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's Norm's.
Cranberry urn.
Norm's
And it'd be
parents.
Judy and
Yeah.
or Norm's Norm's mother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lasby's, they still come to church yet.
Huh?
I think she does. I don't know. Of course, he's passed away. but-
Mary Lou. Yeah, Mary
Yeah.
Lou Lasby.
Mary
Yeah.
Lou.
That'd
Mhm.
be her in-laws probably.
I imagine it'd be his
Yeah, her husband's
his
parents.
mother,
Uh-huh.
I believe. Yeah, Alan's. I think it's Alan's would be Alan's mother. Uh-huh.
Got about two more corners there. Yeah, I guess that one and one more block.
Mabel Scott. Of course, we've been
Yeah.
through her. Frost.
Roast.
They might have gone. See, they lived out by Mosley. The
Okay.
Frost did. And I need to tell something about the Virgins Cooperative Club in my
Okay.
growing up days.
Yeah.
I was 6 years old when my first encounter with the Virgins Cooperative Club, but I think right now I can name just about every lady that come to Cooperative Club and every road they lived on. And because somebody had asked me that Ruby Christensen, before she died,
Mm-hmm.
she asked me a certain lady, and I said, yeah, she came to Cooperative Club, and I said that she lived on Bennett Road.
Okay.
And there was our road, and then there was the road north of or south of us. There was Mrs. Heimbaugh, Mrs. Ford, Mrs. Wittenbach, Mrs. Roth that lived over there, and then on our street was Mrs. Crum, Mrs. Ford, another Mrs. Ford, Betty Baker, my folks. They come clear down to the corners, Cook's Corner, what we call Cook's Corners. Mrs. Hemmingson, Mrs. Roth, Grace Blanding, Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Franks, Mr. or Mrs. Okay, Mrs. Adams, and then the one that lived on the south side there. I'll remember it later.
Yeah.
And then over on was Mrs. Wilcox, Mrs. Crum, Florence Bailey, Mrs. Kerr, Mrs. Mueller, and her mother. They lived on the little short street. Then you go east and you went into another Bailey, went into Mrs. Collar, Mrs. Odell, Miss Guzan, Mrs. Kerr, that had 21 children.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Yeah, one of the twins just died, Elsie or Esther, one of them
My
just
goodness. 21
died.
kids, huh?
21 children.
Wow.
And
Now this cooperative club went on for quite a few years, right?
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
was their function, or what did they do? Was it?
well, most of the ladies, if they had little darning of stockings to do, or they had to put a patch or so, and then they crocheted, they knitted, they did. We just was get together in an afternoon once a month.
Mm-hmm.
They done crafts, and we had a regular meeting. You had a president, a secretary, and all
Okay.
that
All right.
goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And but the ladies wanted to just get together,
And that was their social time.
and that was
social
called cooperative
Yeah.
because we went all over.
Yeah.
Mrs. Croft and Mrs. Frost. They lived up at Mosley, and then there's Mrs. Anderson, and then you go west of us to, or north of us to the Howards,
Mm-hmm.
and we had two Mrs. Burns from Parnell,
Mm-hmm.
and any of the ladies and all of the community, we just got together.
It was very
They did once a month.
economical, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, and
Now, and then you had did you have euchre parties and that kind of
yes,
thing
we
too?
did,
Uh-huh.
and we had square dances.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the guilty one sometimes to play the fiddle, which I played the violin, or I played the drums whenever the guys wanted to go out for a beer or wanted a little rest. Why, who was picked on me because I could play those instruments.
Okay.
And at square dances, I taught John to square dance, which being a Hollander, he knew nothing about playing cards or square dancing, but he learned to play setback at General Motors.
Did he?
Yes, he did. And he'd go early in the morning so they could play cards for it. It was time to go to work. And
Okay, now that's some of the social things that you did, but I think just before you got married in 1940, did you tell me that you also did some WLS
yes, barn dance.
Barn dance? The WLS barn dance.
Yes.
What was the WLS barn dance to start with? Tell me
Well,
about
that was a concern in Chicago
Okay.
that was on the radio.
Uh-huh.
And there was Lulabelle and Scotty
Mhm.
Wiseman that did the singing, and then there was a guy that played the guitar.
Mhm.
It's a little hard to
Yeah.
remember.
And that was on the radio.
That was on the radio.
Okay.
Yes.
So then, like we do now today, we try to emulate some of those shows and some of those things
Yeah.
on television. But you people in Lowell and you young folks decided to do a program on put on a WLS barn
Yes.
dance. Is
This
that right?
lady came from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if it was the Chamber of Commerce here, whether we even had one at that time.
Probably
but
was the Board
anyhow,
of Trade.
It was, Board of Trade. Well, it was advertised. They wanted people that could sing, could play guitar, and or played the piano, did any musical.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a bunch of us signed up. Well, I didn't sign up, but my cousin signed me up.
Oh,
He
okay.
said she would make a good Lulabelle.
Okay.
Wiseman, Lulabelle.
Okay.
So I had to be dressed. Of course, we had albums of those people.
All right.
Is way they were dressed and way they were
Mm-hmm. And you listened to them.
normally dressed. Yeah, and
You listened to them on a Victrola,
yeah,
probably,
yeah,
right? And on
and
the radio.
for Scotty, it was a Briggs. I don't
okay.
remember his first name.
So you played Lulabelle.
I played.
And where was
Lulabelle.
this held? Where was this production?
It was
put on?
held in the upper room of the city hall,
Okay.
back before the floor
They
got.
had a beautiful stage up there,
Yes,
didn't
we
they?
did. Yes.
And backdrops and
Mhm.
all of that things they put on. Showboat up there, the production showboat.
Yeah,
and,
it went on for a whole week, every night for a whole week.
Oh, did you?
Yep. And my cousin played the guitar, of course. He made a good representative of the guy in Chicago that played. And of course, I had to dress like Lulabelle.
Mhm.
My mom had to fix back, these pigtails or whatever you call them out here,
Okay.
because that's the way she looked,
Uh-huh.
And my aunt made the clothes
Hmm.
for me to wear.
Right. So then
it
it
was-
must be you had quite a crowd then, quite a crowd of people.
The
Quite a
city
big
hall
crowd.
was packed every night.
Uh-huh.
Every night. Some folks come every night. And for quite a few years after that, and some of these people see me and say, well, hi, Lulabelle. I got to where I didn't care for that name too well. But yes, we had a hometown
theater.
Yes.
Production.
It was made up of all hometown. Some of the guys that could play music, play horns. I was trying to think. I think Orville Jessup was one of them. I was trying to think if Bruce Walters played in there.
Probably.
But they had a little band.
Okay.
You know, the background, you might say, background band for a lot of. And then we had some other talent. We had a little girl from Rockford or someplace that tap danced.
Okay.
Because they had a tap dancer.
Okay.
And how she found this young man, I don't have no idea, but he could sing like a bird. Beautiful voice, young man.
Okay.
And the guy that played Scotty, we got to racing around in the crowd, he and I did, because it's like Little Bell chasing Scotty.
Yeah.
And that young man was singing. And but we started it before he started to sing. But then he had to sing the second time so that the audience tried to do both, watch us and watch him too. But it was just called a hometown talent.
Okay.
And I don't know, I don't remember. I know there was Showboat. I know there was a lot
Well, I think that was really neat to have your input on that. And I think what we'll do...
hometown, though, see. I can remember the time that some of those happened. But I gotta, sometimes I have to think of...
So you did quite a lot of things like that. Socializing, and you did this WLS... barn dance thing, that was a really neat thing for Lowell to have being done.
It was highly advertised, and it got so, and I'm not kidding, it was in the New York Times.
Was it? Oh.
Whatever, their big paper. Yeah, it had pictures.
I'll be darned.
And I said, I didn't give my permission to get your permission to take my picture. But yes, because at one time we had company, somebody's company from New York came to see that. And they thought that was was the neatest thing they'd ever seen. Hometown people. A lot of farm and country and city people get together to put a thing on like that.
It was probably
but that lady was talented like you wouldn't believe.
She could really use the production.
She could pull us in, yeah.
Okay, so then you and John got together shortly after that then, and decided to get married.
Yes.
When was that?
Oh, that was 1940.
40?
But we didn't.
41? 40 maybe?
Yeah, we weren't married till 41.
Till 41.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have an engagement, or did you just get married?
It was very short.
You did.
Very, very short. Because he worked and I worked, so it had to be short.
Tell me about your where you were married.
We were married by Dr. Walter Ratcliffe at our farm, where I grew up on.
Okay.
And the reception was at Lone Pine Inn, Mrs. Bailey's chicken dinner place.
Okay.
The community put the reception on. And we had snowbanks that were 10 feet high. And when John, I had to go over to Clarksville, because that's where John lived at the time with his brother. There was 3 of the brothers. Each one had a car. And there was such a snowstorm, only way we could follow each other by the taillight.
That was after the wedding.
That was the night we were married.
Oh, February 24th. Huh?
And the next morning, I'm the only woman in the whole United States that got up the next morning and had to feed 3 men for breakfast.
After you were married.
And then we went to church. Then we came to church that day.
The next day was Sunday morning.
We could see now. The storm was over with. And Lester Bailey said, well, the only reason there was a storm because Marge Potter got married, or Marge Gross got married.
So, Marge, you were 20 years old then when you got married. 1921? You
No,
got
I was
married
19.
1941, or
I
you
was
was 19, yeah, depending on the months. Yeah.
I was
Uh-huh.
19.
Okay. And was John about the same age, or was he?
No, John is 6 years older than
6
me.
years older.
Yes.
Well, he knew when he found a really neat young lady, and
Well,
talented young lady.
no, he married me because I was the only woman around that knew how to work on a farm.
You think that was what it was? Well, he knew. That may have been one of the reasons.
Because he could put me to work on the farm and he could go to work.
Okay, what farm did you go to work for? Where did you go live first?
We lived over on Adrian's farm at Clarksville, between Clarksville and Lake Odessa. I didn't do any farm work. I just kept them fed so they could go and work at General Motors.
I see.
Fred, the younger brother, didn't stay very long because he worked for Woolworth.
All right.
I don't remember all the work he'd done, but both boys worked at General Motors. John worked at General Motors for 42 years.
42 years.
They finally got him to, the men there finally got him
Now,
to retire.
this is during the war, isn't it? Wartime.
Yes.
Okay.
John never went to war because the United States Navy kept him out of service.
How did that happen?
They had a contract with Fisher Body to build a certain die, and then they had to build it. Fisher Body had to build it after the boys made the die, and there was 6 men out of the Tula die room that was picked, and John was one of them. They were put in a separate room, no windows, no noise. It's just like they was padded. Walls were padded for 6 months.
To build this park.
And I never knew what went on at all. And at the end, all the men were awarded the Navy, some Navy pin, and no certificate because it had to be kept secret. And till this day, I still do not know what he built. But
what the part was really for.
They each had a part of this big die. This was a huge die. Most of John's dies were for just one part, and it was a smaller die. And like I say, to this day, I still do not know what part he took.
So that was John's
that kept him out of the service.
To the war effort, service.
Yes.
It was the same as being in the service, except
it
was a secret.
It was, but
part
it was in the Navy.
In the Navy.
That was known. It was the Navy that.
It was
But that was all that was known.
They didn't know what he was doing.
No. But that was all that was allowed out.
All right. Well, then when did now? How did you ever happen to get here?
Well, John and I saved every cent that he earned without outside of buying groceries.
Okay.
For feeding us that first year, and that bought us this farm.
This farm here at 4073 Sigma.
And we didn't have a number then. The only reason we got the number so the firemen in Lowell around, and the telephone man and the electric knew what this number was.
Do you know how much you paid for the farm?
I think it was $1,400.
$1,400
for 80 acres.
1942, maybe. About a year after you were married.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we took on all the responsibility. We had electric stove, or John did, but we were not allowed to connect that electric stove until all the bills were paid, and we had to pay the people's mortgage. We took the mortgage and all over. We took the whole thing over.
I see.
ourselves, where most people wouldn't do it today, but
I see.
we did. We took it all over, and Roger Wykes from Grand Rapids was John's lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 year to the day, everything was paid, and we could connect our electric stove. I cooked on a laundry stove for that whole year. We had a sink, but we didn't have any running water.
Did you have electric lights here?
Yeah, one light bulb. Because the electric line from across the road where the transformer is was just one. It was more or less like a telephone line.
Oh, it was just
That-
too
yes.
small to carry.
Well,
Much
that's
more
why
load.
Roger said we couldn't put the electric up until consumers put.
Now you started to raise a family about that time too. Then
1943 was the year Jane was born.
Jane was born in 1943.
March 1943.
Okay, and then who? Then
And our community thought, 6 months from now, there'll be a child. Well, went 9 months, no child. 1 year, no child. 2 years, no child. Then the consensus was she couldn't have any.
oh yeah.
Well, that's what community's done.
Yeah, they thought that's what they thought, didn't they?
Yeah, whatever they thought up here came out here. You know. But
Okay, well then, who was the next child that was born?
Larry was born in 1946,
Okay, about 3 years later. Huh?
but I had a thyroid operation in between the two.
Okay.
Yeah, we lost him, Larry. He
Oh.
suffocated
Oh, really?
being born. The cord was around his neck.
Okay, at birth he died.
Yes, at birth.
Okay.
He weighed 8 pounds and a half ounce.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else wrong with him except that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. They today they know that before they were
Well,
even born.
At
but,
that time, there was several babies lost that same way.
I see.
And Dr. McDonald was the doctor, and he said it runs in cycles.
Really? Okay.
Whatever, how it happens, God only knows.
Yes.
Because God is the one that took care of it.
Yeah.
God only knew how. But there was several of them at that time.
Hmm.
And then in 1948, Donna was born.
Okay.
We waited 2 years between all of them.
I see.
2 years later, Mike was born.
Okay. 1950. Huh?
52.
52.
52, yeah.
All right.
That was all. That was the end.
That was the end. When you didn't call him, yeah. Anyway, that's so Mike was a friend of my Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. They all went to school together.
Yep.
From the second grade right straight through high school.
Now, it used to be a sign out here in front that said Potter's Pebble Palace.
Yes. Hello. What's the matter? You're all right. Yeah, you're all right.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that all happened? Potter's Pebble Palace and what it was
Donna
about?
was 10 years old. We went to a what do you call it? Anyhow, it was at the Armory on Michigan. And these young people made different things. They've had that right along for quite a few years after that. She saw this box of rocks. And she was fascinated by it. And we went on around, look, well, you want to find Donna, well, you go back to where that box of rocks was and you'd find Donna.
Nice.
We got, shortly after that, some of John's friends was rockhounds, and they said, well, we got a club in Grand Rapids now, why don't you come join the club? Well, of course, John, what he knew about rocks is you hauled them out of your field and you put them in a stone pile.
Sure.
You didn't bother playing with them, but he got fascinated by it too. And so one of the club members got Donna in touch with Marianne Dockery.
Now, who's Marianne Dockery?
She is the coordinator of Blandford Nature Center.
Okay.
She had a big piece there. There's a big, back in your big piece in the Grand Rapids Press about her.
Okay.
And she was, okay, now what do you call her? Oh, there's a word. Entomology is for bugs, that I know. But there's one for doing
Rocks.
working with rocks.
Okay.
You know. I can't remember the name anymore.
Oh, that's
I know
all
it's
right.
a very common name.
That's
But
all right.
anyhow, she gave Donna a set of papers with all the liaison officers in the rock clubs from the state of Michigan.
Hmm.
That child bought postcards back at the time when there were 1-cent postcards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I can remember that easy. And she sent postcards to every one of those liaison officers. See, they are an officer of a club
Mm-hmm.
that takes care of all that type of, you know, any information for, you know, you wrote to them or talked to them.
Sure.
And I'd come home from working at school, and they'd be packages of rocks like you wouldn't believe at my front door. That's how we got started in it. And then after that, why, we got in contact with a jewelry store that was selling out, and we got 2 of the big cases. They're big cases. Put them out in the garage.
Uh-huh.
And Donna started with the rocks. Well, it got her dad busy. He bought an 18-inch slab saw and had it put in the basement.
Okay.
And that was his hobby till the day he died.
All right. So
From way
then
back then.
became a family hobby then.
It,
What
well,
started out to
yes, yeah, because Mike enjoyed doing it too. Mike just loved to make cabs,
be okay.
you know, the cabochons, and
Mhm.
which you put in jewelry.
Sure.
And we just went from bad to worse. We bought, tumblers,
Mm-hmm.
and we bought the machinery we done
Okay,
these
that's a
on.
rock right there. Like he would cut
Yeah,
those.
yeah,
That's what he used that
Yeah.
saw for, right?
yeah. You
Mhm.
you keep right on
Sure,
making them. See,
sure.
they're
Oh, yeah,
put-
that's right
See, that's
together.
a whole pair,
Uh-huh.
but it was a whole rock.
Okay.
And
yeah.
John cut it in half.
Mm-hmm.
Then he took each one and they're polished
Okay,
here, here, and here on what we call a viber lap.
Okay.
We bought 2 big viber laps, and we had 4, 5, 6, 7. We had 7 tumblers
Okay.
that held. I mean, they're big tumblers.
How long did it take to tumble rock? A bunch of rocks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yes, people think they can do it overnight. It
Oh
takes.
my goodness.
You got 4 steps you got to go through,
I see.
and the
different
first
grips
the
of,
first 2 steps are 2 weeks.
Mhm.
The last 2 are a week at a time,
Okay.
and so that and we had variations of them. We didn't put them all together at the same time and then have to empty them. It was my job to empty them, clean them all out of the polish, put fresh water back in, the other polish back in, and set them to work.
I see.
And then you went right through all the 4 steps. And,
Until you get something that was.
well, these,
not that,
these are
that's
done the same
polished.
way on a viber lap.
Okay.
And you got these 2. Here's one, there's the other one that's a twin to this one.
Okay.
John just took one of them and just slabbed the whole business. Well,
Mhm.
he thought they were so pretty, so we
Use
fiber lapped them
Sure.
too.
Uh-huh.
And
Now is that called a pudding stone? Or
yes,
probably
the
has a better
tombstone is
name.
conglomerate,
Conglomerate.
but it's a pudding stone. And then we got more over in there
Sure.
too.
All
Got a
right.
bunch of them over.
So
in there.
you done that, and then you got to people started coming here then to see your shop. And,
Yes. Oh yeah, rock hounds. We've
Okay.
had them here from England, Germany, Italy, Spain,
Mm.
Well, we kept
Yeah.
a paper
A log,
for them,
yeah.
tablet like for them to sign. Canada, Mexico. We had a couple here from Mexico. See, we advertised in what they call the Lapidary Journal.
Okay.
It was a big rock magazine, but it also had stories in it from different places where rocks were, where people went. And
Now this give you an opportunity to travel then a bit too.
yes, we
A
did
reason
quite
to
a bit of
travel.
traveling.
So where did you go for some of these
I've
things?
been in New Mexico. I've been in just about every state in the Union and Canada.
Okay.
And we worked with wholesalers.
Let's just take a minute here and take a minute, and we'll go out to your
Shop.
cabinet there,
Okay.
and we'll look at some of the things, the stones that you've kept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You come over here. You come over
Oh, me?
here. Yeah.
Oh, me? Okay.
And I'll bring it out. All right. Here's a cabinet of some of their rockwork. Look at tell us about this beautiful piece of stone.
This is a slab of pine from the state of Washington. It's a log. I take
Yeah.
it. I should show it this way.
Oh yeah.
It's about this thick,
Mm-hmm.
and John just took slabs off of it to show the pattern. The pattern is the same on both sides, but it is it's only polished on the one side.
That's petrified wood, right?
Yes,
It was a
uh-huh.
log and it turned into
And
stone.
it's from Swartz Creek, yeah.
That's
And
neat.
it just turns into stone, and
Right now,
but you get them in logs. Well, a lot of guys sell them that way, but John got the log.
Tell me what this is.
That's a coconut agate out of Mexico.
All right.
It's a coconut.
It sure looks that way.
Yeah.
And
And
what
that's-
is this beautiful stone?
That
here? Boy,
is
that's
called
heavy.
Laguna agate out of Mexico. And out in the shop, I've got smaller ones.
Now look at all the different colors around here.
But as far as we know, right now that I know, that's the biggest Laguna agate out of Mexico. Most of them are about 3 to 4 inches or smaller. Almost the same color.
What a beautiful stone. And if you looked at it from here, we wouldn't know it was a.
Yeah.
With somebody that don't know what they're looking for, wouldn't
No.
know that was.
You just don't walk along. This is mine.
Uh-huh.
This is mine in a mountain somewheres there.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me put that out of the way. That piece of copper, you'll
Okay.
wreck that. But here's one for you to see.
Okay, what's that? Oh, yeah.
That's our wolf's head. That's a coconut agate, but it's solid.
Oh, see, it looks like a wolf's head, doesn't it?
It's the head of a wolf.
All right. And there, what's this one down here?
That was, that's a funny one. This was just perfectly plain. Nothing. When John cut it, he said, "Oh, that's nothing. We won't bother with it." He laid it down, this side down, in a 5-gallon bucket that I brought home from school that Ken Smith used to wax the floors. There was a certain little residue in it.
Okay.
John not realized it, so he laid it down this way. We just left it.
Uh-huh.
2 months later, he went and picked it up, and this is what we got.
Oh, it took up the color into the grains of the stone.
Yes. This is quartz.
Okay.
All of these sections is quartz. That'll pick up color.
Oh.
But it was nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was blank. And that's what we got. That goes.
I think what we'll do is we'll go over to one of our other cabinets now
Yeah.
and
yeah.
look at one of those, and then we'll come back and put these together again. All right?
African queen jasper.
African Queen Jasper. And there's our slices, and you just
Yes.
split
We
them.
bought that as a log.
Oh.
Didn't know what it was.
Oh,
We saw one picture.
okay. These are some samplings in here of Other.
See, that's
Same thing, huh?
same thing.
Okay. Now what do we got here?
That's the rooster. That's a Brazilian agate
See
slab.
the rooster?
Agate slab.
See his legs and his bill? Okay. Here, I'll let you put that back.
A lot of this in here is Brazilian agate, the colorful material. But I was going to show you the Laguna. This is the way most of the Laguna is gotten. You can see the crystals around through it. These all are. This is our fish.
Can you see the fish there? Here, we'll hold it real still once and we'll take a peek at him. There, see the fish? See his mouth? His tail by my thumb.
This-
Alright.
These are all darn heavy, but this is rhyolite out of Mexico. You've seen the Mexican material in there, the difference.
Okay.
This is got in a different area,
Okay.
and here's a smaller piece of it.
Looks like a mountain back there.
Yeah,
Looks like
uh-huh.
a scene.
And part of, you might say, the moon shining on it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these are pears.
Mhm.
I can't haul them out.
No, that's
they're too
good. Let's
heavy.
take a look at this other shelf over here. We'll put this back. We'll take
Uh-huh.
a look at this one over here.
But they're most
Here's
of these
another
are
sampling
pears.
of some of their work. These are just a few of the things when they were going strong with all of their
Yeah, these are just cut.
just a few
Just cut and
Thanks.
put on the Viber lap
Mhm.
so that we might
Anything special in there?
no, not really.
Uh-huh. Just different kinds of
It's
rocks.
it's just all the different. There's these back in here, Ivan,
Mm-hmm.
are from Paraguay. This agate, it's moss agate, called moss agate.
Okay.
All that black stuff is a moss type of material.
Oh, okay.
And it's,
And where does that
hold it
come
a
from?
minute.
Oh, that one there.
That's called crazy lace.
There you see
That's
the lace.
out of Mexico. Yeah.
Isn't that something? Well, I
This is
think
just
that's
This is just a
quite a sampling of
a lot of this.
the
A
things
lot
that
of
they
this
have.
stuff has been shown in our showcases, which we don't have anymore. But you got a septeria back in there, Nick.
Now you used to
Here's
take
a big one right down here.
this one down at the bottom. Now you used to take these pieces to shows, didn't you?
Yes, yeah,
In different around the country, different areas.
yeah. You take the big pieces,
Mhm.
and there's always a slab off in the big pieces.
Oh, okay.
And I show the slabs. In my case, he had the
The big
big pieces in his case.
Oh, okay.
Boy, they were heavier than
Uh-huh.
dead preacher, we call it.
Yeah. All right. Very good. I think that
But that's some of the
gives
stuff
us a good
that,
idea of what
that-
you were into. Okay. Well, that tells a little bit about a big part of your life where you were, you and John could enjoy those things together.
well,
Starting out with you and the family, and then it grew into something that you and John could enjoy
Well,
after the kids were
we
gone.
farmed it here.
In farming too.
Yes, we put in crops,
Mm-hmm.
and I used the team until they sold it. He sold the team, and we had an old Ford tractor with the lugs on it.
Okay.
Oh,
Iron
you-
steel wheels.
You remember
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. Okay.
We took it over to Caledonia.
Uh-huh.
I think it was a Ford company, I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
But we turned that in toward a Ford tractor,
I see.
rubber tires.
Rubber tire tractor. Yep.
And I had that all these years until Ken wanted it with the, what do you call it?
The plow, maybe? Or?
No, it was for cutting hay. back then.
the. Okay, I know what you mean.
He wanted to mow down more of their back area.
More. Uh-huh.
So he took that and more.
Okay.
You know, there's a name for it.
Sure. Bush
hog.
bush hog.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that
So and then did you plant when you there was apple trees and so on out
John
here?
and I planted 28 acres of fruit trees. We
Okay.
planted them alone.
Wow.
John had a 2x2, a big long one that he took off so much measurement.
Yeah.
He'd lay that down and drive a stake in, and it was my job to dig a hole.
And then at that point,
Yeah.
then you came along and planted the
We
trees.
went all over southern Michigan to get fruit trees.
Okay. What varieties did you have?
We started out with red and golden delicious, McIntosh, Cortlands, Jonathans, and we had there was some fruit trees here when we moved here.
Yes.
There
Oh.
was greenings, Rhode Island greenings, all
Okay.
along out
Uh-huh.
here. Baldwin, Hubbardson, then two other old-fashioned apples,
Mhm.
and what's the little yellow one that comes in the springtime? They're a soft apple.
Like a harvest apple.
Yeah,
type
they don't
thing.
last long.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, then we
Sweet.
bought Rome Beauties, and
Well, you just
but
had
those
all-
are most of the apples. Then we went into the pears, went into Bartlett's,
Oh.
and then John had an idea. Well, let's put some plums in. So we put in German plums, Stanley plums, sweet cherries. We had a whole sour cherry orchard, Montmorency sour cherry orchard here.
Mm.
I've got pictures of those.
Now, you know, you don't just do this overnight. It takes a while before you get a crop. How many years did it take to get a crop of
We started
Cherries.
putting those in before Jane was born,
okay?
and many's of days
1943.
we take Jane over to Mom
Uh-huh.
and Aunt Lena's to take care of her, with just a baby, and come back here and plant trees. Then the next morning he'd go to work
So,
for General Motors,
yeah,
and we worked in the afternoon and evening.
probably 8 to 10 years before
Yes.
you got a
Yeah,
return.
about that.
That has to have a lot of foresight to it.
Yeah. Well,
And
We
then
were-
how
yeah,
about
we-
picking? How about picking the apples? How
Well,
did that? go?
we were just young people that had lots of energy and had to do something with the energy. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
We picked our own apples, and we had fruit stand out here, but we also had crates in the garage that we put baskets of apples on.
Okay.
John rode the sprayer, and I drove the tractor.
When you spray.
And we had rubberized clothing and big masks,
Okay.
and we had running water in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only place we had running water, you might say.
Mm.
And we changed clothes, cleaned up and changed clothes, washed those all down with hose before,
Oh,
and hung them up to dry. But John ended up with parathine poisoning,
Oh, really?
and we had to give the orchard up. He'd go to work and come home, and somehow or other they had either sprayed the orchards, like the one over here, or alfalfa fields, and he'd be so sick he couldn't hold his head up.
Oh. Once
And-
he got it, well, then if he could smell it in the air, it
Oh yeah,
reacted.
wherever we went. Well, anyhow, to top that all off, we wanted to find out what in the world was wrong. Dr. McKay didn't have no idea why John vomited so much.
Mm.
We get the fruit growers, and I happened to read in there about two men from Georgia, peach men, that died with parathine poisoning.
Mm.
So I gave it to Dr. McKay. He did all the calling and all the book work, and that's what we come up with. That's what Jane had. But these men died.
What John had.
They didn't know what to do.
Okay.
Okay, one of the incidents after that, we gave up the orchard. We went to a national rock show at Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
and I was driving the car, and I seen this plane come down way in the distance, and I thought maybe it was an airport. As it got closer, they were spraying alfalfa
Oh, okay.
When we stopped that night, he was so. I only had one Dramamine. See, that's what we fed him,
Oh.
Dramamine. I only had one with me
Mm.
because I figured I could get at a drugstore over there. He was as sick as a dog. I didn't know what to do. There I was in a cabin,
Mhm.
didn't know people, so I went to the lady that owned the cabins and I said, "Is there a doctor here in town?" And she said, "Why? What can I said, "My husband has parathine poisoning and he's deathly sick right now. We got into it with alfalfa spraying."
Mm.
She called her family doctor. He came. She
Hmm.
told him what I needed
Uh-huh.
and he had some. He came and he learned that night why he lost two men in an alfalfa field.
Oh.
They didn't realize that they were spraying with parathion,
Oh. Now they
and they died of parathion
Is
poisoning.
that something that is outlawed now?
Oh, it was outlawed right then.
Oh.
Oh yeah, because Dr. McKay sent Johns into Washington,
Okay.
and we told him about the two men out in Colorado,
Oh, I
or out,
see.
no, it was in Nebraska where we were, right on the edge
I
of
see.
Nebraska and Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And that doctor he never charged us one red cent, and the lady didn't either. He said, "There's no charge." He said, "I've been to school." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I've just learned a lesson right here, right now. I know what to do if I get any farmers come in sick.
From that. Okay.
The only way you can be treated. Now you stop biting.
That was pretty. That was
You stop.
pretty dramatic. He had
Yes.
that much influence.
Yeah, and
One of the
you know,
things.
and there's been some since that time, not parathion, but some other thions that they've had to get rid of because it made
Yeah.
fruit men sick.
So you then got out of the orchard business, and you were in the rock shop yet
Yeah.
until about 92 in that area.
No, that's the year John died.
Okay.
Let's see, 92, 91, 90. Either 89 or 90, I got rid of everything in the shop.
Yeah.
Everything. All the machinery and
Now John was sick for quite a while.
oh,
before
John
he
was
died.
laying here in the hospital bed at that time.
Okay.
Yes. Oh yeah. He knew nothing
For a number of years.
No.
You took care of John
Yes.
then while he was
until the day he died.
until he died.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what? But during that time also, you had another job. You told me about maybe at the school.
I was a cook in the school, in the Rutzman building at the school year for 4.5 years, or no, 10.5 years.
10.5 years.
10.5
Who were
years.
some of the people you worked for there?
I worked for Ida Clack and
Uh-huh.
Treatise Devener
All right.
and your mother-in-law, Mrs. Barber.
Elizabeth Barber. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And then when Trina's they retired, Lucy Cole was she made the bread and the cookies,
Okay.
same as Trina's did.
Uh-huh.
And Mrs. Barber took care of the Jello, making the Jello from beginning to end. You know, she dipped it out and served the kids with it. And I was the main cook then.
Okay.
That was when what's her name took over anyhow. Bovee,
Mrs. Bovee.
Marilyn Bovee took over,
She was there for
and
a while.
she left me be the cook
Uh-huh.
here. And
You can get up there if you don't
Oh,
mind.
oh.
It's okay.
no, I
It's
don't want him.
You don't
up here.
want- okay.
I get rubbed in the head, and I don't think you want that picture.
He's part of your life now.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
but there ain't no cat in the world that looks like him. We don't know what his father was, but why he had such a big tail, and he's got hair on his feet. He's got boots.
Yeah, I see that.
I
Now,
know, I know.
Okay, so you retired then about 1971, I believe you told me the
Yes.
other day.
Yeah, I had
And
to.
now you had some other hobbies around here. I've noticed outside. I can see, and I know I came here and done remodeling for you.
Yeah.
And put siding on your house when I was a carpenter.
Yes, you
And
sure
worked
did.
for you and John. And
But you also
always
worked in the
enjoyed-
bathroom long before that.
yes, we did. A number of different times. We had different associations. But you always had beautiful gardens, beautiful flowers
Yeah.
out here.
Well,
Tell me a little bit about your peonies out there.
well, at one time I had 43 bushes. I'm down to only 40 now, which is 40 too many. And we don't do anything with them
Lot of
except
different
cut them
kinds.
down in the fall time. They blossom beautifully. But Tim Demick looks after them for me.
Oh, yeah.
And Jackie does this out here in front.
Oh yeah.
Because I
Sure.
wasn't able, I had to quit doing it because I wasn't able
I remember
to.
your hollyhocks. You had all kinds
Oh,
of
yeah.
hollyhocks.
But I have very
Beautiful
few now.
hollyhocks.
We got a disease in them,
Oh, okay.
and they.
I
and
know there was
we
a
lost a lot
large
of-
selection.
I know
of
you
hollyhocks.
tried growing them.
Yeah,
too.
I couldn't grow them.
Yeah.
You'd give me
but
some and
they
I'd take them
over
home
time,
and they'd die.
Over time, they just go. You know.
Now, so did you have?
We done photography work long before we
We
did
had
the
another
rock shop.
hobby.
Oh yeah,
Photography.
We belonged to Grand Rapids photography club for
Oh,
quite a
okay.
few years. Quite a
You
few
sure were an interesting couple. That's for sure. You had a lot of great hobbies.
We had a lot of fun.
That's what
we
life
had
is
a lot
all
of
about,
fun in
isn't
life. Like I say, well, people say, "Don't you miss it, the rock shop?" I said, "No, not a bit. We had our fun out of it. That was it.
Sure.
We couldn't go no further."
Yeah. Yeah.
We did everything. In fact, we were the only rock shop in Lower Michigan
Hmm?
for maybe 10, 15 years.
Wow.
Then a couple in Lansing got onto it, but they got into silver work,
Okay.
more silver work than, you know.
So you had tell me a little bit about the photography. I'd forgotten about that, but I do remember
Well, two of John's buddies at General Motors, they belonged to photography club, and we were just taking pictures. So they invited us to come to the club. We went all over. The club members did at different places taking pictures.
you. Okay.
There was a farm south of us, still on Seguin, that had sheep and lambs.
Okay.
Well, somebody wanted some animal pictures, so they come out here and made the tour. They stopped here and had lunch. A bunch of the ladies brought some food. I had quite a bit fixed up here. And they took pictures of the different animals.
Hmm.
Then we had another farmer whose mother horse just had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
The cutest doggone colt you ever did see.
Uh-huh.
And all the women just went. They were from town.
Went out and took
You know, they
pictures of
never
them.
been out
Okay.
where our farm animals were. We didn't have any animals but a dog.
Now, did you take some of those pictures then and put them in any contests or anything like
Yeah,
that?
we got blue ribbons for several of our 35 millimeter.
Okay.
Mr. Avery come and selected. He's the one that
Okay.
selected the 35
Now, that was
millimeters.
Norton.
Norton Avery.
Okay.
Yes.
Neat
And-
guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, and they were showed in the Civic Auditorium at
Oh.
that when it was the Civic Auditorium,
Okay.
and you could do things like that.
Uh-huh.
And John got blue ribbons on 3 of his pictures.
Okay.
The 3 we put
Uh-huh.
in the display, but just
Did you
about
take
everybody.
a class from? Did you ever take a class from Mr. Avery, Norton Avery? Didn't you?
Norton said to John, "You don't have to." He said,
You know more about it than you.
"He said you don't have to do anything."
Well, he certainly knew his
Oh,
photography,
oh,
and
you bet
I
he-
took some
Well,
classes
he taught
from him.
he taught the 4-H kids photography,
Okay.
and our 2 girls got pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And then when Mike come along, why he was 35 millimeter. He didn't
Mhm.
want nothing to do with plain old camera.
Right.
And he took all of the everything but the screen. I have the screen and the machine that shows the pictures, but he took all the other stuff.
Well, Marge, I think we've covered pretty much your whole from your birth to present day.
Can't tell you
maybe
much more.
you could tell me a little bit yet to wind us up a little bit about you got some grandkids probably.
Well, I've got 2 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
2 great-grandchildren.
They're twins.
All right, and those are whose children?
Those are Nikki's girls. And they are now going to be in the 8th grade.
Nikki's girls are
They're
Jane's?
granddaughters.
They're your granddaughters.
Yeah, their father lives in Chicago, but they
Okay,
don't have
yeah,
anything to do with him.
Here.
And
And what
no,
about...
he disappeared before the girls were born.
Oh, okay. And you have, let's see, Donna, where's...
Donna was a school teacher for 33 years, and she's now retired.
Okay.
She's
And
had enough of kids.
Where does she live?
She lives in Dearborn, Michigan. Yep.
Michigan. Okay.
And Jane and Nikki lived, and the girls live with Jane on Norwood in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
You go down Kalamazoo to the Reformed Church
Okay.
and make a turn right there, and they live right down there
Okay.
behind the Reformed Church.
And Michael passed away.
Mike, in '99.
He had diabetes, did he
Yes.
not?
But he died of massive heart
Okay.
attack.
Heart attack. Okay.
The doctor the doctor that put 4 bypasses in his heart was the heart transplant doctor. You can't get
Okay.
a better one.
Yeah.
But he told Rocky and Donna that Michael was still a controlled diabetic at 46 years of age.
Okay.
He was controlled. In other words, his diabetes was nothing wrong with it.
Good.
But back when he lived out in Raleigh, North Carolina, he went to Duke University to the diabetic hospital only. That's all they do.
Oh.
And the doctor came in to see him in the room, and he just looked him over and he said, "You can't be a diabetic." Well, he said, "I am. I've been all these years." He said, "Well, how'd you get that way?" He said, "You didn't know my mother." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I was kept right on a schedule. Even at going to Michigan State, Dr. Hill he was there. Dr. Hill
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
took care of the kids at Michigan State, but he also took care of Mike.
Okay.
He said it was easy for him to do because we made him do what was supposed. And
That was early diabetic. Mike was one of the first people I really understood anything about diabetic.
Mike was 8 years old,
And,
and he was born in 1943. And he was 8 years old, and Dr. Vining was his doctor.
okay.
In between Dr. Vining and Dr. Hill and his mother, we kept him on the straight road. We ate
So
the
now
same. We ate the same food he had to eat when we went on vacations. We bought fruit and vegetables, and we ate that way, and he's continued to eat that way.
Now, okay. Now, I think, in winding this all up here, we have really cut the gamut from about everything. I never had anybody
Washed me out
had...
from underneath my feet.
We had a lot of different facets, and that's what makes your life so interesting. And and this community has really benefited from all the things that you have done. And the things
So have I.
So have you. It's been a two-way street, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been a two-way street.
And that's what makes life worthwhile.
In my last years of my life so far, I wouldn't have gotten along without the senior center. In no way I could have.
Sure.
Because I only had one meal there a week because I went to crafts. Well, then I started losing weight. Food, I could fix it, but I could just leave it right there. I didn't want it.
But now you go
And
there
I kept
and
getting
eat with
sicker
other
by
folks.
the minute. Dr. Mogar said, "You think you could eat there every day?" Oh, I said, "I can try." So I called Marcia and I gave her the everything that was going on. She said, "You get yourself down here and you eat what you can eat, what you can't.
Sure.
Leave it." I was taught to clean up my plate.
Sure.
But the
'Cause we
food,
were as kids, weren't we?
yeah, but geez, the food they give you, they don't use a tablespoon, they use a scoop spoon. Every tray is.
Well, that's neat that you can be
Yeah.
a part of that now. And
I had to be, Ivan. I would not have survived. I'd have been
gone.
gone a long time ago if it hadn't been, because I could eat and I could associate with people. People was the thing that did the trick.
Great.
I could eat here to home my breakfast, but forget the rest. But I could eat down there and socialize with people.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to advertise senior center, but I sure like to, because if you need to eat and you can't eat by yourself, that's the best place to be.
Great. Marge, thank you so much for taking the time for this interview.
Oh, I've had a lot of
we
fun.
want to thank you, too, for all the things that you have
Yeah.
contributed to this community and
I've
all
tried.
the different facets and the different people that you have touched. And we're very, very grateful for your life.
Well, I hope the society likes it.
It will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Because I've enjoyed.
The Lowell Area Historical Museum is proud to sponsor community oral history interviews. The Lowell Area Historical Museum educates, enriches, and inspires our community and visitors through the preservation and presentation of Lowell area history. For reservations and more information, contact the Lowell Area Historical Museum at 616-897-7688.